Wind and solar generated a record 10% of the world's power generation in 2021. I mean, that's remarkable.
That's awesome.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Friday, April 8th, 2022. I am Eric Planey.
I am Lucas Finko.
And together, just the two of us going solo, we are the Pirates of Clean Tech.
Arr. Arr.
We haven't had a non-guest episode in quite some time, so it's nice to be a little more casual. Friday casual, just catch up on how things are going in the world of clean tech.
Yeah. So, and our last guest, I'm still kind of recovering because it was just epic to talk to him, and some of the mind-blowing things he said now are like happening. So my mind's still blown. I'm still recovering. So
totally agree with that. And this is probably one of the episodes where we got some of the most feedback from people, texts from friends and phone calls. And one of my good friends, Catherine, one of our fellow pirates, said, well, we didn't really talk about pricing of electricity in Germany, and really didn't put it in that context. And I said, yeah, it's a really good point, but I think most people understand that German electricity pricing is probably so much higher than the rest of the world, because that's just the nature of Germany.
Yeah, we did talk about it a little bit in the historical context, but yeah, we didn't talk about it in the current context at all. So that's definitely a challenge they're going to have. But he did also mention the GDP impacts from just dropping Russian imports would be comparable to the COVID lockdowns. So yeah, I mean, it's incredible what happened. I didn't think I would see this kind of thing in my lifetime, right?
Right. And I'll tell you what, I didn't put it as one of my articles, but Martin Wolf, the great writer for the FT, I think he's an economist, had a piece that really supported David's piece in his presentation. And Martin had the best point. He's like, if you cut gas now, okay, you're heading into spring season, you're going to give Germany the ability to, from an industrial needs basis, find other sources of gas, like for example, from Norway, while houses don't need to be burning gas in the summer months. So by the time winter comes around, fall and winter, you can have a new schedule, a new logistical movement of gas and oil from other sources to satiate demand. If you wait until fall and winter, it's just going to be catastrophic. And I thought that was a really great point. We're forgetting about the seasonality and taking advantage of the fact they're heading into a low period for gas usage.
Right. And that's true. And in the summer, they used to build their natural gas reserves, which they won't be able to do, which is a little worrying. But, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so now that they need to find alternatives and substitutes for Russian energy, they're going to find them. So it'll be an interesting 6 months to see what happens there.
It is. And of course, our hearts and minds and prayers go out to the people of Ukraine and everything going on right now. It's still tragedy more and more every day. And now we're starting to see, war crime activity take place and, see the results of just some really horrible things. So really sorry to see that, but, we'll do what we can to support from our end. And there's a lot of websites, there's a lot of legitimate agencies supporting relief efforts. So, we encourage you to go find those. Before we get started, I just want to give another shout out. Some of you know I had a little bit of an auto accident situation a couple weeks ago. I'm still laid up. Knee surgery went well. Recovery ahead of schedule. Just want to thank everybody out there who's sent me notes wishing me well. This is why I'm not in my home office. I'm actually down on the first floor in the living room. I feel like a mortgage banker because I got a computer on my desk looking at the front door. I feel like people are going to come in and ask for a home mortgage. It's all good. So thank you everybody for that.
The other big news item we missed was the offshore wind auctions, which were huge. So I was going to talk about that last month, but we didn't get to it. Billions of dollars raised. Really shocking outcome. If you don't know about that, look into that. So a large swath of the Atlantic Ocean off the East Coast here was auctioned off for wind farm usage. And the bids went crazy into the billions. So very interesting to see that. I know there's another auction going up soon, so keep an eye out for that. And it's a very exciting time over here as far as offshore wind goes.
Amazing. 10 years ago, nobody wanted to talk about offshore wind. Everybody was NIMBY. Remember Cape Cod project? Nobody wanted to see those things.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden you just can't get enough of it, and it's great. And look, even though President Biden is going through this kind of emergency, let's find oil from wherever we can situation, given pricing and given volatility from the Russian crisis, Ukrainian crisis, we're still going to be migrating more and more towards clean sources of energy. That's all it just comes down to.
Yeah. I
The
mean,
horse
we
is
can
less
still
farm.
offset a lot of fossil fuel burning with adding more renewables, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
We let's get to it, no doubt.
All right,
So
are you ready?
yeah, let's move. As you're pulling up the articles, we'll just do our friendly disclaimer. Views and opinions expressed by Lucas and I are solely those of ourselves and no organization we are affiliated with. And also, for any companies that we talk about that may have public securities, we are not making a recommendation on that security one way or the other. We ask you to talk to a registered investment representative and do your homework. So the funny part when you're talking about kind of picking up from David's themes from last week and talking about it, I really focused on a couple articles that really tell me there's solutions out there to help Germany, to help Eastern Europe, to wean itself away from Russian gas and Russian oil. This was actually sent to me from my good friend Tony. He saw this article. This is from newatlas.com, which is like a really cool, like techie website, all kinds of innovative stuff. Anyways, Quasi's ultra deep geothermal drilling plans, your questions answered. This is by Lowe's Blaine from March 6th. So it goes back a month, but I thought this is really fascinating. This is talking about a company called Quasi, or I don't know if I'm saying that right, Quasi. They have a geothermal power plan that's one of the most, they say, exciting, fascinating green energy projects that New Atlas has ever seen. This is a Boston-based MIT spinoff, and they said they've repurposed some technology that was used for millimeter wave beam burning technology to develop a superheated plasma infusion experiments. And this is able to blast through undrillable rock far below the Earth's surface. So you can almost go 20 kilometers deep, where it's almost 900 degrees Fahrenheit, and you can have geothermal provided to your house, to your neighborhood, to your commercial enterprise using this technology. And I really focused on this. I was really appreciative Tony sent it to me, because this is exactly what Germany needs to be looking at right now. And Czech Republic, Austria, Poland, all these countries that are reliant on Russian gas for winter, you could drill down 15, 20 kilometers and you're generating, getting into 900-degree bedrock, or whatever the material is down there. We got to be looking at this. If this is sourceable, if it is sustainable, this is something we need to take a look at. So I really recommend this article. We'll have the link up, of course, with our website, with our podcast, but just really fascinating.
Yeah, this is really neat. I've often wondered, like, yeah, why can't we come up with better ways to drill than just a drill head? And so this looks like that's what this is. It looks like they're using some argon that's in some excited state to, make the rock more porous. They call it a vitrified wall, and then they can more easily drill. So this is very interesting. We should be able to get down to deeper depths. I mean, I think I remember the deepest mine is like a mile down, and it's crazy hot down there. So you don't really have to go that far, but if you want something kind of industrial temperatures, you got to go a lot deeper, right? So it's just really interesting to see. It's really cool.
Yeah, I almost think about like how cities in America, downtown areas years ago, where it used to be centralized heating, right? So, every commercial building in a small downtown area had one steam plant providing, heat to all those buildings. I look at small towns almost having the ability to drill just a couple of these and to provide geothermal heat. If you're getting to 900-degree Fahrenheit activity, you probably have the ability to have one or two of these drilled down, and you can heat a whole neighborhood, for example. So these are things that really need to be investigated and talked about. But I like the fact that this is an existing technology repurposed for geothermal. That should make it commercial, its ability to scale into commercial activity that much faster.
Yeah, right. If you're getting that hot, you're not only district heat, you're also industrial process too. So yeah, this is cool.
Right. So good article. Now my second article here, again, this one kind of, first off, we're going to the enemy here, oilprice.com. Ooh, those fossil fuel people. But this is a really interesting article because it plays exactly into what we've been talking about. This is from Svetlana Pereskova, April 3rd, 2022. High natural gas prices could lift green hydrogen investment. And a couple of bullet points here. They're talking about companies in the US and Europe and Australia have announced major green energy hydrogen deals and projects. We've talked about those. probably over the course of the last 2 years. Blue hydrogen projects, which is production from natural gas, plus the added expensive carbon capture, is costing more and more now because of the price volatility associated with natural gas. So when you talk about green hydrogen, which is the electrolysis process being sourced from green energy, this makes more sense. So even though the world economy doesn't like the shock associated with rapid increase in oil and gas prices from the war, there is a green side, there is a positive side to that. And that positive side is the opportunity costs and the economics of going into green hydrogen will look more and more favorable at this time. So even though we have price volatility, and a year from now prices could drop again and people are going to say, oh, green hydrogen is too pricey, if we start into some of these efforts and initiatives, bearing in mind that volatility hurts us, I think it just plays into the idea that this horrible crisis can actually lead to more green hydrogen investment, which again weans people off getting sourcing oil and gas from volatile nations.
Yeah, I've been big on hydrogen. I think it's going to be a great deal when we have too much wind, we have too much solar, the prices go to zero, the price goes negative. You're going to get paid to take electricity and make hydrogen out of it. So I'd really like to see more green hydrogen. I really think we're going to have a lot of price volatility coming up. So you could, it could be a flexible load to absorb excess solar and wind that would normally be curtailed. So let's do this instead.
Right. Like I like this quote right here. They're saying that the price of natural gas, blue hydrogen, along with this added expensive carbon capture, is more than 10 euros per kilogram in March with the soaring prices. So I mean, nobody who does long tail projects wants to have such volatility in their pricing because it just creates so much uncertainty. So let's just focus on, yes, it's a little bit more expensive now, but the more scaling that takes place on green hydrogen, the more that pricing would come down anyways from technology and increasing productivity and sophistication. So let's just keep moving on it and let's use this opportunity.
Yeah, and they say that right here: the quicker we switch to renewables and hydrogen, quicker we'll truly be independent. Right.
Right. Great to see it. So again, another article that I think just tied right into our feedback from our great guest 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Last one, just a CNN article, because we haven't had so much positive news lately, given all the problems in the world. CNN Business from Angela Dewan on 6:26 a.m. on March 30th, in case you need to know the time. Wind and solar generated a record 10% of the world's power generation in 2021. I mean, that's remarkable.
That's awesome.
And it's really, not too much more to talk about it here, but we're getting to the point where 10%, and they're saying clean sources account for 38% of total power supply. So I think that also includes, which is more than coal. And I think that includes things like hydro and nuclear. And I think some people obviously have different definitions of clean energy, but we're really talking about carbon-free power generation is really starting to get up there. And this is great. We need to keep going with this. And I think like what you just mentioned about the offshore auctions taking place, that just means the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see more wind in great parts of America that'll generate a lot of consistent free electricity, tie it with some storage, tie it with green hydrogen electrolysis process, and we're really on our way.
Yeah. I mean, this deserves a little clap and a pat for ourselves on the back, and raise your beer, raise your glass, and toast to this. This is great news.
Yeah, I'm going to raise my extra strength Tylenol, which I've been hepped on for 3 weeks now, and my coffee. But anyways, those are my articles today. There's a couple others out there. Lucas wouldn't let me publish one that talked about how William Shatner is going to be doing clean energy poetry. That's going to be on the next episode. We're going to keep you informed. Bill Shatner goes to space with Jeff Bezos, comes back, and he's inspired to write green energy poetry.
Maybe. We'll see.
All right. Anyways, off to you now.
All right, my articles. Sadly, I'm going to start with a little sad news. This is from Canary Media, March 29th. Experts say blending hydrogen into gas pipelines will not work. Utilities, and we've talked about this in the past, right? We've seen studies that said they could do this, but there are some new studies out that say that it won't work. So utilities want to extend their infrastructure's useful life. They're worried that if natural gas gets dropped, then they'll have stranded assets. So the evidence suggests that the risks and costs far outweigh negligible emissions reduction impact. So I haven't looked at the study they quote, but it says there's a new report by a San Francisco-based think tank called Energy Innovation, and it lays out a critique of the U.S. utility plans to use hydrogen as a substitute for fossil gas in their pipelines. One of the big arguments against we already knew, which was the energy density is much, much lower. And there's also some worry about hydrogen causing more corrosion because it's more volatile in the existing pipelines. So they may have to upgrade the pipelines, and then that defeats the whole purpose, right, of utilizing older tech, so it doesn't become obsolete. So this was a little rough, but we may have to rethink about dual use of our natural gas pipelines in the near future. So just wanted to bring this up.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought this article up because I think further investigation is warranted, because we did see a lot of definitive information last year talking about a 20% blend in the pipeline shouldn't hurt it. What this really just brings to me are all these types of questions associated with how are we going to allocate capital towards what projects to green ourselves. And obviously us who are truly green really don't necessarily believe in building more gas infrastructure. Although you can make the point, of course, that more gas online is taking more coal offline. So we've talked about it as a bridge energy source. But when you're talking about building 30-year, 40-year pipelines, and those pipelines could actually, the capital could go towards other things such as solar and wind and green hydrogen.
Right.
Then it does call into question whether or not we need to have this bridge technology or this bridge feel. And I'm kind of paraphrasing our friend Joe Silver, who was one of our original guests, who said, we got to start thinking more rationally about, what kind of CapEx are we going to be spending in the future?
Yeah. So this was interesting, and I agree with you. I mean, we need to stop with natural gas investments, and we need to, direct that money more towards electric transmission lines, which I saw another $10 billion investment estimated from MISO on transmission lines. So that's fantastic news. It's precisely where we need it with all the onshore wind there in the Great Plains. So, so maybe the investment's already moving there. So this is a good thing.
Yeah, it was a good article. And again, we'll have to follow this because we're seeing both sides of this conversation right now.
Yeah, we'll keep a close eye on that. I had to bring up some news here from Utility Dive, which is my favorite haunt. This was published March 24th. By Robert Walton. New York adjusts their standby buyback rate methodologies, sweetening the value proposition for New York City storage. So this is great to see. There's a picture of the beautiful city, just like the one back there. So the New York Public Service Commission, which is the state regulator, issued an order adopting a new cost allocation methodology for standby and buyback service rates. That would be a battery energy storage system customer. That advanced energy solution providers say will improve the value prop for DERs like electric vehicle storage and demand management. So this we definitely need more of. I don't know if this is in line with the new FERC 2222, but I definitely want to see more. This is a good way to put it, cost allocation. That's sort of one way to put it, but clear costs and clear payments and clear rewards for people that provide services like energy storage, because we need a ton of it. And so anything we can do to help people bringing energy storage onto the grid, we should be doing. So I applaud actions like this.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add here. I think you're absolutely right. Storage is still not the Achilles heel, but it's still the big thing that really has to be solved. And it has to have the cost reduction like we're seeing on generation and wind and solar. So whatever we can do to create a standardization, create consistency, and give investors a certainty that they should be investing in storage, thus driving costs down, I'm all for it.
I agree. Like I'm still, I would be ready right now to do vehicle to grid if I had a clear cost signal, if I had, if I knew when prices were high and prices were low, I would not mind coming home at 5:30 p.m., plugging in my EV and discharging the entire battery for good bucks, right? And then charging at 2 a.m. at 2 cents a kilowatt hour. I'd be fine with that. Just give me a price signal so I can do that. And then you don't have to go out and buy oodles of storage. We can just dual use EVs, right? So I want to see more of this
I
everywhere.
disagree slightly on that one, on vehicle to grid, only because right now I think there's, 5-10 year outlook. There could be shortages on precious materials for batteries. So I don't think we need to be making vehicle batteries bigger than they need to be, right? That's why I'm still a big fan of plug-in hybrids for the next 5 years, just as a bridge solution. So I understand conceptually what you're saying. I think in the real world, though, I worry a little bit about having a battery that people feel comfortable that they can plug in at 5 p.m. and still have enough juice in case they need to make the emergency run to the drugstore.
Well, you make a good point. I mean, we need to think about how we utilize energy storage solutions, right? And think hard about that.
Right. Now, again, there's a lot of companies out there creating new materials and batteries. And so that's going to help on, vehicles, on storage, everything.
Right.
May eliminate some of the uncertainty or the supply chain risks associated with these precious materials.
Well, like life cycle, we had them on, right?
Well, they're incredible. They're recycling. 100.
Yeah.
How can you be against recycling? I'm just saying that I think there's going to be substitute materials getting more and more prevalent.
Oh. Yeah, I saw an article about one using sulfur, but so many of those are in the research phase. They're not even in the development phase yet. So that's a long time off. But yeah, I like to see it. My last article, this is from Electrek on March 28th from Fred Lambert. Tesla is planning a big megapack project at the Gigafactory, Texas, to avoid an unreliable electric grid. So this is interesting too. He just had some kind of a rodeo party last night. Did you hear about this? I don't know what that was all about. My invite must have gotten lost in the mail. But yeah, so here's their new Gigafactory in Austin, Texas. They're going to, they filed for a permit for a battery energy storage system. That's the BESS. And they're going to build, they're saying there's a lot of land available to do so. 53 acres, which would be huge. So it'd be interesting to see. Texas certainly could use the storage. So yeah, we're going to keep an eye on this one.
It's funny how that Gigafactory rendering, I don't see solar on the roof. And that thing is nothing but roof, right?
Oh, it says in here, they're going to put solar on the top and it's going to spell out the word Tesla. Yeah, see, spell out the word Tesla from the sky. So it's coming.
All right. Well, I mean, you can't disagree with Tesla's strategy in the wake of seeing not so much improvement in the Texas grid in the wake of the great winter burnout from a year and 3 months ago. So I think it's the right thing for Tesla to do, and all companies really need to be thinking more and more about resiliency from both a cost standpoint and a ROI standpoint for the investment in electricity.
Well, and a sustainability standpoint, right? I mean, if you can't rely on, the Texas electric grid when it gets cold, or the natural gas supply when it gets cold in Texas, I mean, it pays to have something on site, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
So good article. Again, even though I don't think you meant for this to be the case, your articles, I think, also play into solutions that can be adopted in Europe in wake of everything that's happening with the forecasted volatility in Germany and other places, like we talked about. So
yeah, well, we're all on the same boat. So
we're all on the same boat. Exactly right. And I think technology transfer is a massive thing that we need to discuss. Innovation in the US should be making its way to Europe. European innovation should be making its way here. And just let's get this going. We didn't have any of the articles that referred to it, but obviously the UN came out again over the last couple of days and said, we got 3 years, folks. We got 3 years to start, solving these problems. Or if we don't really start reducing carbon emissions after 3 years, we may be hitting the point of no return. And I don't think it's scare tactic. I think it's reality. And sometimes I think we need to put down our soy lattes, stop watching our reality TV, and focus on doing what's right. And most of our audience are not the type watching the reality shows, but most Americans, we got to wake up to the fact that this is a major, major issue. It's happening. We see it in a lot of voting polls. Clean energy and climate is more of a priority than it was 10 years ago, but it's still not of such importance that people are changing their methods of doing things and pushing their legislators to do more green investing.
Right. Well, I think a lot of us still believe that innovation will save us and that we'll be able to continue our lifestyle. Our lifestyle can continue with no change. And I'm starting to doubt that that's true. I think we will need changes in lifestyle. Oh, you're going to send us all into poverty because I won't be able to drive my SUV around, everywhere for $2 a gallon. I mean, that's not really what I call poverty. Or if being wealthy means I get to dump all over the environment, then that's not really wealthy, is it?
Right.
I'd rather have the wealth that you call poverty then, right? Which is a clean environment, an air I can breathe, and a temperature that can support humans. So
I remember reading a quote from a German environmental scientist maybe about 10 years ago. Said anyone who has a family who lives in a house greater than 500 square feet per resident of the house. So if you have a family of four, 2,000 square feet. He goes, anyone who lives greater than that really has to have their head examined because you're just creating so much inefficiency and you're taking away sustainability. And I think if that's not for me sacrifice. That for me is just being realistic about how we
correct.
should be moving. And I think that translates into what you're saying about driving habits, about going with hybrids or electric, about being smarter, about everything from recycling to using high efficiency appliances to having electric lawnmowers, et cetera. If the more we adopt these practices sooner than later, the less it feels like sacrifice. A couple years from now, it's going to feel punitive because we're going to have to do it and government is going to have to impose it.
Right.
We're getting there.
We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how disruptive we need to be, right?
Yes, agreed.
So,
but I think we had this was a quick podcast today. 6 articles, I think, all very good. 6 articles plus William Shatner's doing poetry. Talk about that later. But they are relevant articles, and really appreciate the support we've had over the last couple of weeks, especially with our guests. We waited a while to find the right guest to talk about the crisis in Europe, and I think we hit the ball out of the park.
Yeah, and you can find us as always on your favorite podcast site. You search for Pirates of Clean Tech. We're on most of the major podcast sites, and you click on follow or subscribe or whatever the button is. And we're also on YouTube. You can subscribe to us there. So yeah, let your friends know, people who want to know about the future of our economies, our societies, our civilization, and energy, of course. You can get it here.
And to listen in style. So with that, I'm Eric Planey.
I'm Lucas Finko.
And we are the Pirates of Clean Tech. Yar!
Pirates are.